welcome Benedetta Tagliabue to CCA this evening as part of our architecture lecture series. Benedetta is a partner and the director of EMBT, Miralles Tagliabue, one of the most accomplished and creative, I would say, of Spanish architectural offices operating globally. EMBT is based in Barcelona, and they also have a satellite office in Shanghai, where the firm was responsible for the design of the Spanish pavilion for the Shanghai Expo in 2010. And this project, designed by Benedetta, also received the prestigious RIBA International Award for the Best International Building in 2009. EMBT is an exceptionally innovative practice, both underscoring, I would say, and exemplifying in many ways the dynamic aesthetic impulse, the spatial inventiveness, and embodied materiality for which contemporary and historic Spanish architecture has become known. We had the opportunity this past summer when we were on a Water Cities travel program to take the students to their studio, and we very much appreciated the deep culture of making and, of course, the many, many models that filled the office. Projects such as the Scottish Parliament Complex, the Parc Diagonal Mar next to the Forum, the Santa Caterina Market that you're looking at here, in the Gothic Quarter of Barcelona, the City Hall in Utrecht, and the School of Music in Hamburg all exhibit in many ways the expressive possibilities of the architectonic as these integrate formal and spatial ingenuity with inventive material detailing, recalling in many ways the kind of artisanal nature and quality that's deeply embedded in their work. And I would say despite the complexity and the multiplicity of parts, each of these architectures is truly singular and continuous in the ways that we often understand a work of art to be, where the attention to detail extends from the most intimate or minute interior detail or element or a piece of furnishing to the larger landscapes or urban projects. Under Benedetta's direction, EMBT has extended the terrain of architecture to include not only the details of industrial design, furniture, interiors, but also the realms of landscape and urban infrastructure. The firm is doing work across the globe, currently working on projects within the Hamburg Hafen City Harbor in Germany, a new campus project for Fudan University in Shanghai, and a new museum in Nanjing, China, a church complex in Ferrara, Italy, among many others. The work of the studio has also been published extensively and exhibited in such prominent museums as the MoMA in New York and the Pompidou Center in Paris. Benedetta originates from Milan, Italy, with degrees in architecture from Venice and New York. She started her collaboration with Enric Miralles in 1991, and they founded EMBT in 1994. She's taught as a lecturer at many international schools, including most recently being a visiting professor at the Harvard Graduate School of Design and Columbia University. Please join me in welcoming Benedetta Tagliabue.
So good evening, everybody. I'm very happy to be in San Francisco. It's the first time I'm in San Francisco, and I'm meeting again with some old friends like Mark Johnson, who is here and who will be part of the story I will tell you tonight. I thought that maybe the story of our studio is very well represented by this project, Santa Caterina. So that's why I choose to start with this, because this is a story very near our home, and it is a story which was really about redoing not only a building, not only an object, a market in itself, but about reshaping a urban piece of the city of Barcelona. And this was done also really thinking that we were living in this area and we were really like egoistic neighbors, and we really wanted this area to become fantastic, to become beautiful, and to make this gray go away. When the project started, the situation was like this. It was in the old city of Barcelona, and it was a very, very dense piece of city with a market which was in a state of decay. And we had to work during many, many years to transform the area, make the neighborhood become a little less closed in itself, a little more open. And this piece of architecture was, of course, very important in order to transform the city surrounding it. So many times the market of Santa Caterina is identified as a colorful building, as an individual thing. But I think really it was a urban project, very much about looking at the situation as it was in this moment. No, a very, very dense city, very closed, very broken, because some openings were done but were not finished. And after many years from the first openings, the market was of the beginning 1830 or something like that, so 150 years before, and this opening of the Via Laietana was done in the 30s. Then the city remained stopped, and we had to start again in the 90s and rethink how to give light and air and life again to this piece of city, which was remaining in a kind of static and closeness. So we were working in a piece of city which was so complex that we ourselves had to represent the piece of city in a kind of a very big model where we were cutting the destruction which were going on in the same time. Because in that moment, some destruction were taking part. The European community was paying for giving light to a very dense habitable city, but the project was not ready. So during destruction, we were doing the project, and our tool was this little model. And many politicians came to our office to discuss with us and to think about how to make a better city in this very, very, very fast situation. So as you see, the market was the point of attraction. Here you see the cover of the market, the roof of the market, arriving in the main street. That opening is a new opening, and the market itself is kind of indicate the new opening, and it's also making the very big avenue a little narrow in order to show that you just enter into a kind of a smaller neighborhood, which is not the bigger one of the bigger, newer Barcelona. So this was the pergola and the old market transforming into a kind of new roof where people would feel protected and attracted and would be attracted to go inside this new jumping roof, let's say, jumping on top of the old walls and attracting people and making the street becoming a kind of a more public place. So this market was very important as a urban piece, was a kind of reshaping the new opening that we were doing in the old city of Barcelona. And the fantastic part of a market is the inside. No, really, when I went to Barcelona, because I'm Italian, I really discovered that markets were a fantastic piece of civilization of Barcelona. They have something like 65 markets, and where you go there, you can find fresh fruit and fresh fish and vegetables, and the colors that you have inside are really very fantastic. And also the light of the building is designed in order to underline this beautiful sensual place. So we wanted this sensual place, these colors, this attraction to become urban, to become really something that you don't see only when you are inside the building, but that you see from the outside, and you are surprised, and you are going in a place which was a kind of a abandoned place before. So this was many of the models we created for Santa Caterina. This was a project which needed a lot of effort because we really were so ashamed about the very complex historical situation that we never did a kind of a very determined project. It was a project which was taking place little by little, taking the lines from the history. In fact, underneath the Santa Caterina market, there was a monastery, and a very strong one with a fantastic church and a very famous, how do you say, tower. And in fact, when we started to excavate, because the project was going on and there would be the new construction, we knew that we would find the monastery lines, let's say. And what we find was that. And the same archaeologists became very, very surprised about what we found and what to do with it. No? But at the end, everybody was kind of convinced that it was very important to find the archaeology underneath, to find the history, but also it was very important to make the city work. So it was decided, together with the archaeologists, to maintain some of the stones, to make it visible with a kind of an underneath museum, but also to make the project go on and not the stones stop the project. Actually, these photos are really fantastic. This was a very special moment when we discovered the church, the monastery, the stones which were underneath. It was really like a kind of meeting, you know. It was when this part of history, which was absolutely unaware about the transformation of Barcelona, could meet Barcelona, and to me was really a kind of impressive, no, to have also these photographs which were indicating. Let's say the many dead bodies which were in fact in this earth kind of emerging and say, oh wow, there is the sun, there is the city, and this was, you know, because churches were the graveyards, were the place where people were buried. And in fact, we found many of these skeletons, and it was very strange to go on the construction site and to see this. And I always had a kind of hello, greetings for the dead bodies we found. The archaeologists were cleaning them, and then they were putting in kind of black plastic bags, and I don't know where they were bringing the bodies. But in the same time, it was really like this. No, you had this mixing, very, very, very strong mixing of the archaeology and the construction. No? You had this, which were the dead bodies of construction, and then the new body of construction, which sometimes really was looking more archaeological or more older than the real old part. So really, I think Santa Caterina was, to us, also a kind of a teaching about how to live together with the existing city. This part of Barcelona is very old, and we were kind of acting without refraining because of the existing, but also with a lot of respect. And it was about learning the dialogue between the existing and the new. And the new roof was conceived as a kind of a very, very light canvas on top of this activity. So we know that the terms market in Catalan is the same as the term piazza, the term square. So it's really the public space. Going to the market is going to the public space. So we thought that the roof had to be a kind of a light structure, something which could resemble to a canvas. It's not a canvas, of course. It's something more stable and more solid. But this geometry, which is actually very complex, was given by this desire to make the roof become really like something floating on top of activity, of a public activity, and making very clear that the public activity happening in the street or happening inside the market would be nearly the same activity of people in a public space moving freely. So we started this construction of this very, very complex roof. It was very nice to have this big iron structure which was done by artisans. I think this project was really the artisans' celebration. You see this man at the end did some of the most complex structure without doubting and without difficulties. And the place where this was built was not a very enormous place. It was a kind of a good artisan place that you can find many in Spain, and which were very, very used in this project. So you see, these are the pieces which then will be mounted and assembled in place in the market Santa Caterina. And these were the important structure which was suspending all the rest of the structure, so that you have the feeling that the structure is totally light, because the very strong part is not visible, is mainly outside the main roof. And then the rest is kind of suspended. You see inside, you only have the feeling of the cables, which are just keeping the arches. And then the arches are getting in and out from the structure of the roof, making this kind of hint, understanding that this feeling of being very, very light is in fact a very big effort that we have done our best to simulate as a kind of easy one. So the roof is a structure with iron, you have seen it, and then there is wood, and then this making the wood very, very thin was very useful, because then the geometry could be followed, and it was a very, very difficult geometry. And on top of that, with the tradition which is very Catalan, we put ceramic, but the ceramic was given by the desire of reproducing this fantastic world of colors and beautiful perms in the outside of the city. So we really reproduced a piece of a selling place, let's say, and then a fantastic ceramist, other artisan in Barcelona, was able to reproduce many different colors, so that as if it was a series of pixels, this big image of fruit and vegetables on top of the roof was reproduced by ceramic tiles of very different colors. Then these ceramic tiles were assembled together in kind of big hexagons, and in fact the hexagon is the shape which is easier to adapt to a very complex geometry. And it was kind of easy. You see that each one of the hexagons have a number, so it was a kind of a puzzle that every day the artisans were doing, saying, oh yes, next to this there is the other number, and then the other number. And it was very possible to make this very big drawing on top of the roof Santa Caterina, so that this would be a kind of a present to all the neighbors, which finally, after having had a kind of a decay building for during many, many years, would have a kind of a roof which is a kind of a landscape in itself, becoming a sort of a garden, visible garden that they can watch upon. So the way of putting together the ceramic was very, very special, very nice. It was invented. It was an invented system, but it was kind of working. Also, because this is a tradition of putting ceramic on top of roofs, there was no great difficulties. Maybe the difficulties were in special places where at the end the hexagons were meeting, then you had to create special pieces because the meeting was not totally perfect. But in principle this was adapting very, very well to this very complex geometry, and little by little we were observing the roof of the Market Santa Caterina becoming more and more colorful. I have to say I was kind of scared, because we believed that this colorful roof would be something inserting very well in the city of Barcelona. But I was of course, very ashamed. No, as architects, we do decisions, and then it is very tough when the decision becomes a public thing. But one day, my daughter, she was about 7 or 8, she saw the roof, because we live very near, and she said, "Oh, the roof Santa Caterina, Mommy, you did a very beautiful thing." And this really was, to me, I kissed my daughter and said, "Thank you so much." No, it's true. And so this is what now the neighbors of Barcelona have in front of their windows. And what was fantastic was that this effort of making the new public space much better and better quality made that everybody individually, each one of the properties, a piece of properties of the houses, made the effort to repaint their facade and to become again a kind of new neighborhood. No, everybody was conscious about this and was very happy about the fact that this place would become a new place. Also, new housing were built very adjacent to the market Santa Caterina, so that it was very clear that this was a project in a way in the old fashion. You know, you have this housing living together with the market, living together with the public space, with the parking, with everything. So it's really the essence of an old city, of a European old city, which is a lot of function all mingled together, making each other strong. No, so that, for example, the old people living in that new housing can have this possibility of asking with the basket to get some of the food up from their windows, which is something which usually happens in Barcelona. And on the front, you have this kind of roof coming out, which is jumping on top of the old walls, which we maintained. And it's making very clear that this roof is not touching, it's as if it's suspended, and the space inside and the space outside is nearly the same thing. So in the past years, actually, these arches were used as open arches, and the commerce was happening on both sides. And I think it would be nice if this kind of tradition of letting the building be very permeable, very open, would go on, so that this roof is trying to indicate the way of using the building and the way to make this building very, very open and very permeable. So this now is actually working. This was open in 2005, and I think it was, I'm still buying there, still living there, and the neighbors don't kill me, so this is very important. It means that the place works. And here is the space with social housing together with the back of the market. And in some days there are kind of meetings. This was the opening of the market, so that there was a lot of people. And this is the photo that I love very much, because is my daughter and son, and they are named Caterina and Domenic. And actually their name and their lives is very much in a relation with this project. And maybe that's why I love this project so much. It's not just the neighborhood project, but also my daughter Caterina brought the project, and I thought that she was the lucky person who brought it. And then, because the monastery was a Dominican project, a monastery, I gave the name Domenic, we gave the name Domenic to our son. So this, they were very, of course, they didn't like the story at this age, but maybe one day they will be happy to have a story in relation to their own names and lives. And the market, like today, is like this, very colorful, very beautiful, very nice to go and shop there, especially on Saturdays, where there is a lot of movement. But also we were curious, you know, when you finish a project, you are kind of out, you know, the project is not yours anymore, it's from everybody else. And so we were going as spies in order to see how the social life around it change. Because we have this hope, really, that this big intervention, this big effort on a public building will really be better in the life of everybody, all the neighbors, using the surroundings. So in a way, it was nice, no, to make this kind of spy photographs, so that you see the very different type of ethnic. In Barcelona, you have, you know, it's very one type of people. It's not so many ethnics as in the United States. But in this part of town, which is the old city, you have a lot of immigration, so a lot of different type of people. And sometimes this could be a conflict, this could be complicated. But because of this activity going on, because of this public space working, maybe this conflict is becoming easier. So in a way, this is a series of photographs with this white boy meeting a black one of the neighbor and becoming friends because of the public space and the possibility of playing in it. I think it's maybe to me a kind of hope that what we could do was a kind of a good project for the neighborhood, for socially. And we will try in every project that we will do to maintain very clear that everything, every building we are doing is mainly a urban project, and it's mainly done to make the neighborhood and the surroundings better. So in a way, Enric Miralles, my late husband, was always saying that one of the phrases of Alison Smithson was, at least when you do a project, you have to leave the place better. So we are trying to leave the place better. And we have many other projects in Barcelona, but today I decided not to go through the big projects that we had been finishing in the last years. Of course, there is the Scottish Parliament, there is the tower over there, which is this one, which is a gas tower in Barcelona. But I decided in this lecture now to show more something more recent and some adventure that we are living right now. You know, in the office, every year we produce many projects, something like 10 competitions, and some of them there get realized. So we are working on many things in the same time. And I think it's nice now to tell the story of nowadays, what we are doing now. This is the Spanish Pavilion. The Spanish Pavilion was a very important project to us. It opened us the doors to China. It was a kind of a joke when we did the competition. We thought it's a good idea to use a material which is weaker for construction, because this would make a kind of a link between China and Spain. In China, they produce wicker exactly in the same way as they produce it in Spain. So we thought it would be a kind of underlining that the language of hands is the same everywhere. And we won the competition, and then we had the opportunity to build this this very visible building in the Expo, Shanghai, and to be in contact with China, and then to start a new adventure, which to me is really fantastic. No, it's not being very in your neighborhood and doing things that you do it nearly egoistically. It's being very far away, but in a place which is fascinating to me, and also in a place where you open up a conversation, and this means a lot to me. Maybe we will not be able, I don't know, but we are trying, and this is a very big effort. So I might have a video. Let's see if I'm able to open it. I'm not very good in this kind of things, but let's see. If you are patient, we try. And this video I choose to put it because usually I make a lecture about the wait a second. Here I have a problem with the audio because I put it out myself. Well, never mind. It has a beautiful music, but nothing else. So I will explain you on top of the images. So this is the office. So I think through the images you also see how we work in the office, the people who is there, how artisan we are ourselves. I was speaking about artisans and the use of hands in Santa Caterina and in this project, but in a way, in our office, we still use a lot our hands. Now we will have the possibility to use machines which do things by themselves, but it is very important at a certain point to keep this capacity of working with hands in order to get to buildings. So this project was trying to make it clear that Spain was a kind of a very dynamic place, and also where tradition and technology was going together. So this building, it's how you say, a very, very complex. The sound is my fault. It's my fault. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. So the technology of iron, of metal, is very complex. The geometry is terribly complex, but on top of this, you have a very low-tech material, which is actually used already in the construction, which is wicker or bamboo. They use how do you say, construct scaffolding, exactly. They use bamboo already on scaffolding, and then at the end of the building, they were putting something looking very much like the scaffolding to become the skin of the building itself. I didn't know what Chinese people would think about that, no? Because in a way they love very much very finished building and very also very shining. But in a way they were attracted by this material which was very, very near to their way of being. And inside there were very big exhibitions about Spain, trying to tell Spain to everybody in China, and this was very appreciated. And as you see in the night, the building was becoming like a big lamp, and in the day was this kind of very strange animal, which really was like an animal to me. It was an animal which I appreciated very much, because it was up, where is it? Is it this one? Yes. Like this. Okay. I appreciated the animal because, of course, like in Santa Caterina, I was very afraid about the final result. You know, here I'm Italian, and I was the architect of the Spanish pavilion. Everybody was saying, oh, you're in Spain since many years. But I was feeling so afraid. To say, if the building would be not fantastic, and this is a very experimental one, this is a big risk. So sometimes we have to take big risk, and the only way that we can try to control is to make our best in the office, to make our best. We did thousands of 3Ds, models, trips to China, looking after the construction. And then, well, at the end, the thing was working, and it was one of the most visited buildings in Shanghai. And after that, they came and say, oh, they do kind of strange buildings, not very big, so maybe we can give them a very special building to do, which was the museum, a small museum for a fantastic painter, which is called Zhanda Chen, who was born in Sichuan, maybe something like 100 years ago. And during a lot of years, the government in China didn't really want to celebrate Zhanda Chen, because Zhanda Chen flew from China in '49. But after a while, they really realized that he is a fantastic painter. And so they were very happy in his birthplace to celebrate Zanda Chen again. Here I was playing, I went to Neijiang and I found the statue of Zanda Chen, and I was playing being a little girlfriend, let's say, with they say he was very womanizer. He had a lot of wonderful women. I was very happy to touch his hand. And he was actually a talent, a real great talent. People explained me because I didn't know about him. And he was really able to reproduce Chinese painting of different epochs with a fantastic technique. And then he was developing a way of painting by himself, which is now very, very special. And he met Pablo Picasso in the 60s in Côte d'Azur. And in that time, Pablo Picasso, with the brushes given by him by Zanda Chen, he made a portrait, which was this one. Apparently, the woman of Zanda Chen, the wife, commented, "Oh, this is really ugly," but it was in Chinese, of course. And Pablo Picasso didn't understand and say, "Oh, would you like it?" And this was given to him, and I think it's really fantastic. No, of course, it's not the traditional way of using brushes. It's not the traditional way of making a portrait, but this was a fantastic story to put the two people together. So we were called in Neijiang in order to do a building which was kind of celebrating the relation Spain-China, relation Picasso-Zanda Chen. So we used this painting, this portrait, and we thought that this could be the kind of base, footprint, for a series of pavilions in a very nice spot, which is a natural hill in the city of Neijiang. And some of the figures coming from Zanda Chen paintings were used in order to make the profiles of these strange pavilions, which will be like, let's say, like natural things going around the vegetation without destroying the vegetation in this piece of land in Neijiang. This project was very nice to me and gave me the opportunity to meet Mark Johnson, who is here in the room, and who wrote, I had his name by a fantastic catalog that he produced of a retrospective of Zanda Chen here in San Francisco. And so I loved very much what he was writing, and I invited him in Columbia University when I was giving a studio dealing with this theme. And he was fantastic. It was really a fantastic relationship and fantastic informations about the real life of Zanda Chen, his art. And so really he got involved in this project. And we really would like to see this project realized. And now this series of pavilions are still a kind of, we don't know if they will build it or not. They're still thinking about changes, about politics. Chinese politics is very complicated. But I really hope that this could be a kind of a fantastic small place where Zanda Chen was born, you will be able to visit his work, or maybe also the reproduction of his work, or maybe also the gardening. No? He was doing fantastic gardening. He was a person with a lot of characteristics. He was a cook, he was a gardener, he was a painter, he had many things. And so Mark Johnson put us in contact with the family of Zanda Chen, and they also told us that this of building in pavilions in a garden was something that Zanda Chen was using very much also in his own houses. So we didn't know, and it was by chance, but this is another reason to try to build this building. So we don't know if this will get built, but more than a year ago, we had a kind of a first stone opening, because in China they love celebrations. And you see that it was a real celebration with a lot of colors and a lot of beautiful things and globes flying in the sky and people going with a lot of colors on top of the mountain where the building will be. And also, have you seen the big reproduction of the building? All the politicians there. So this is a kind of a hope that the thing will not stop here. It will go on. And this is a moment which was in a way a kind of a diplomatic moment, which I thought was fantastic. It was provoked by Marc, who could introduce me to the real family of Zandacen. She's Singh. She's the younger daughter of Zandacen, and by chance she got married with this man. I think they met in Berkeley, so you see the stories in the world are always very, very near, and they met in Berkeley, and now they live in Madrid. So when we received the delegation of the Neijan politicians, we invited them, and it was very, very lovely to see the daughter of Zandacen, who had a life very far away from China, from the place where her father was born, meet again with the politicians. And this was to me a kind of a feeling of the possibility now to meet, to open the world, to have a world which maybe is complicated but also absolutely fantastic, where things can happen and where we are very much in contact, and where we have to try to use the maximum, the fact that we are so much in contact and that we can have good opportunities from that. So this was also a nice thing, the tradition. The politicians were very nice to me. They had only nice small drinking, but with my collaborator, they had the day before a kind of, how do you say, a drinking guerrilla, this kind of a fight that they usually do in China. And, they prove their fantastic capacities about drinking and drinking and drinking. And so my collaborator was very drunk the day before, and in this moment he is totally afraid, totally terrorized by the fact that he would start again. He was saying, "Ah, my friend," and the other one wanted to run away. And it was a very, very nice situation, very nice moment. So in China we are doing right now many other projects. Some of them are competition, so they are secret, and some of them are kind of one competition, like this one, which we did for a university, a big university called Fudan. When you say Fudan in China, they say, because it's the oldest university. Oldest university means at the beginning of the 20th century, so 1909 or something like that. Because before they didn't really have universities, so it's a very recent one. But we were making the competition thinking at the fantastic universities, also Monticello, where also we were looking at many public spaces, because we thought that making a university in the city, in this case, was really about making a place which would be not only for segregating students in a place only for themselves, but to invite the city and the students to mingle, especially in the lower floors, so that the city would take advantage of the new buildings of the university, and the privacy of the university would happen only on the upper floors. So this was our competition. And we were very surprised, because the competition you usually win are the one that you think you will never win. And in fact, we win this one. We were told that it was not for us, but we won it. And it's 3 blocks, 3 urban blocks in a new piece of city. And the idea was this, that the ground floor was a kind of a very common, very public ground floor for everybody, and then the privacy of the university would start in a upper level, so that you also have this kind of bridges connecting the three buildings, so that the connection between the university is very strong, but only at the upper part. So ceramic will be part of the facade, because also we think that ceramic is a kind of material which we know very well in Spain, which we produce, but is also fantastically produced in China. So we have the possibility to invent a way of using a ceramic facade, which is very technological and working very well with the university. And also a lot of roofs will cover both the public space on the ground floor and also the other spaces which are more private, which will be the kind of, how do you say, the corridors and the halls and the spaces which are not classrooms, but where you can learn a lot in a university, no? Which is a kind of intermediate space between public and private, between a closed lesson and a kind of interchange with your colleagues and people who can tell you a lot of good information. So this is now what we are developing in Shanghai. Very complicated. We are finding this entering in a new world a kind of a challenge, but we are very happy to try. And meanwhile, we make a lot of other competitions. We have so many that I think here we have to go very fast, otherwise we will finish in a couple of hours. So here is, for example, a competition for Luigi Bocconi. It's a kind of Fudan in Milan. I'm from Milan. You see how many collage we do, and at the end the collage are very useful because they bring you the story in a kind of a physical way, and we arrive to make the scheme from Bocconi really coming from the collage, you know, the story of Bocconi itself, of the founder of the garden, and so on became the story of the scheme. And then on top of that, we started to develop with many models, with many different ways, this very big complex with a tower, because now they really want to make a kind of a dense complex, with pergolas, with public spaces, and so on and so on. And at the end, we didn't win it, because this is one of the many possibilities you have in competition. You lose most of them. This was won by Sejima, and I think her project is absolutely fantastic. And I'm very happy that she will make something so beautiful and so important in Milan. But then we also do other competition. This is Italy and France together. It's a, how do you say, very fast train in connecting France and Italy. So it's a kind of a, both France and Italy are there. You see that we still work with this kind of collage, which are making us understanding where we are, the physical surroundings, and then try to get onto the site plan with some of the things we have been learning in the collage. And then the project, maybe it looks a little like, or maybe not, we don't know. But I think the fact of making collage is very, very important, because it's explaining a lot of things to us before starting a real decision. This one was, for example, making this station very much part of the existing infrastructure, so that you see the vaults are really coming from the train vaults already existing. And this is the transformation of the space through the new vaults in concrete and glass. So this is a competition. We got a very honorable second prize, but we didn't win it. So this also worse. This was in Athens. We did. We thought it was a fantastic competition from the Niarchos Foundation. about redoing the city center, city public spaces. So we thought, we will use the collage, and the collage will really become a part of the pavimentation and so on and so on. And we discovered thousands of things because, of course, on Athens you have so many things to discover. And but at the end we were not very able to bring this fantastic collage into the public space. So the public space doesn't look very much like all this dreamy thing, and we were not selected, so that's it. So we go fast, just in order to see, what is on top of the tables of our studio during a year, for example. Many things happen, you don't really realize it, but the projects are changing on top of the tables, in the shelves, and then many of them you just put them back in the cupboard, in the drawers, because then they become unuseful. This was a church. This was the Church of Rome, called for competition in small places in Italy. This is a beautiful city called Ferrara, and we were very, very happy to come in Ferrara and to build this church. But actually we realized that the Church of Rome decided as a site for the ugliest place in town. But never mind, I think it's good, no? In a way, this new church would dignify this very ugly place. And we were looking at the city of Ferrara. Also, we were doing a lot of collage. We invited a fantastic painter called Sandro Chia, and no, I made a mistake. It's Enzo Cucchi, so he would kill me because Sandro Chia is his competitor. But it's a lapsus. I'm very tired. Maybe you will not tell him. So we also thought very much about making a light structure, because in these days when we were doing the competition in Ferrara, there were a lot of earthquake movements. Very terrible. This is a fantastic ceramic city, all this color, the color of the bricks. But we thought maybe it would be a nice moment, because of this movement of the earth, to make a very light wooden or bamboo-like structure, which is also good, no? Because in this moment the Church of Rome is showing that they are also very sustainable, also very poor. They have always been poor, and with this kind of materials you can do fantastic roofs, some fantastic halls, and we thought that this would be a good idea to propose to Ferrara. So the reference was something more aerial, like these balloons, which is a kind of tradition in Ferrara. They do it once a year. And so we were doing a light roof for Ferrara. A lot of sketches, a lot of little models, a lot of things. This explains you how much we keep a project in a state of indetermination. This is very much until the end. Then the moment arrives where you have to give your proposal, and then you have to close. And we decided that the church would be like this, the complex would be like this, and we had also kind of very simple renders or images of how to arrive to the church. But then I realized we forgot about the cross. We didn't put the cross. So I said, oh my God, now we've lost it, no? And then we won it. So you see that this is exactly as I said before, no? You can never tell. You always have this surprise in competitions that the one you don't hope about is the one that probably you lose. And now you win. Now we have other projects in Barcelona. This is very small and it's very indeterminate. I have very little to say about the project in itself, apart from the many collage. But I think it's such a beautiful program. This is Maggie's Center. It's an idea given by Maggie, who was the wife of Charles Jenks. She suffered cancer herself, and she realized how difficult it is to be cured by cancer in a hospital. So she was inventing a program with then Charles Jenks made become a reality, where small houses would be built next to hospitals, and these small houses would host a kind of a kitchen and very comfortable rooms, and it's just a place where people who are going through a cancer treatment can run away from the hospital and go in these places and find comfort, find people in their same situation, share a story, share a cup of tea. And they already had a lot of Maggie Center, especially in UK. They have one from Frangheri. They just opened one in Hong Kong from Frangheri, and then from Oma, from Rogers, from many famous architects, because they were friends with architects, being Charles Jenks and his wife. And now we are called to do the first one in Barcelona. It's in a fantastic location next to a building which was a very old hospital in Barcelona. And so we are in the middle among the two hospitals, the new one and the old one, which was a modernistic one. We are here. And so our little house would be really a kind of a garden house where people who are receiving the treatment in the new hospital can run away and forget about everything, embedded in garden and in a building which resembles like a kind of a garden pavilion. So there's little to say more about this building apart the fantastic program. And because we are in the United States, I wanted to bring you a story about the United States because this was a very beautiful story. I lived in 2009. I was called by the Merce Cunningham company. Merce was still alive, and he wanted to have a fantastic 90s birthday play. And so he always wanted to collaborate with different people of different professions and different ages. Of course, he had in the past the best collaborators that you can imagine. He was with Rauschenberg and with Jasper Johns and with John Cage. They were kind of starting all together. But the nice thing is that at his age, he wanted to do something different, and he wanted to involve younger people and to risk every time. So they called me, I don't know how. They came to Barcelona, made some interviews, and they decided that they would ask me to do a very big structure, because they wanted to have a play where the musicians, many musicians, would be on stage together with the dancers. So I thought that this would be the nice object. It was also the play had to be on the day of the 90th birthday from Merce Cunningham. And I thought this is a fantastic present to give to a person of 90s. One of the most beautiful things you can find in nature, crystal rock, with the possibility of lights and the possibility of reflection of many colors coming out from its transparency. So we tried to put a kind of a gigantic crystal rock in the middle of the stage, so that the musician could stay on top of this structure, and the dancers could dance around and maybe on top of it. So this is the result, and this was still the moment where we were doubting, and also poor Merce, who was at the time going in a wheelchair, was also doubting. No, he was very, very precise, and when we showed him the first models about this big construction, which would be in the middle of the stage together with his dancers, it was very concerned about how much space this would take from the dance, how his dancer could move around. And then we proposed that maybe one dancer could dance at the different level on top of the structure. And he was really considering this. You see, he was very serious. We were around kind of chatting and trying, but he was very, very serious. And he said, well, let me think about that. And I will give you some conditions. I don't want this to be scary for my dancer. I want it to be totally sure. And you have to assure me that this is not trembling, because my dancer need to feel as if they are on the floor. And we said, of course, of course. And then it started a kind of great difficulties. You are in a kind of a tight budget, tight timing. You need to fulfill the desires of everybody. The theaters are not used to receive gigantic construction of about 8 tons, and they were all protesting and finding difficulties. Then we decided to build it in Barcelona because it was the cheapest. And I knew that Merce Cunningham loved very much artisans. No? When I was meeting him in his house, he was explaining me a story about a Polish artisan who came and repaired his window. And he was telling me that he was looking at the way of working of the Polish artisans, and he loved very much how nice he was in doing his work. So I knew that in Barcelona, some of the artisans are like this. They are very good. They are very knowledgeable. And they know how to work fast and well, and also very cheap. So with this artisan, we produced this incredibly complex structure, which had to maintain on top 12 musicians, physical, with their instruments. At a certain point, one of the instruments was also a grand piano. And then luckily they changed their minds and it was a guitar. But because the grand piano was very difficult to host. And this part is where we are all standing. It's a kind of how do you say, you can move this part so that the dancer could go on top, find the measurement, and have a little dance on top of the structure, making a kind of a difference. No, usually the dancers dance always on the same level, but in this case there was someone on a different level. And this is the face of the artisan. He couldn't speak one word in English, zero, absolutely. But he was not afraid. And then I obliged him to come to New York, and he was very happy coming in New York and seeing how the people was working in the theaters in New York. And here is the manager of the company. He is terrorized in this moment, you know. Because there's always a moment where everybody in a project is a kind of very scared, because you have to trust the others and you don't know if the others would be good, no? And he was coming to Barcelona and saying, my God, what can we do now with this enormous structure? And also the structure had wheels, and we were supposed to rotate it so that in the different acts the structure would be always different. So you could see some of the musicians sometimes yes, sometimes no. And this is the kind of, how to say, movable part, so that sometimes it could be used for dancing or sometimes could be just closed and look very different. So then we cut it into pieces, put it in container. It arrived in New York. The artisan from Barcelona arrived and helped in the montage of this very complex thing. And here was Merce looking at it for the first time. He had seen the little model before, and this was the first time he was commenting. And I was hoping to give him a kind of a crystal rock, let's say. But he then said, oh, I love it. It looks like a ship. And this, I think, was a very good metaphor, maybe better than the one that I chose. And it was really a ship which, where all the musicians were giving the music to let the dancers move around it. And then also the structure itself was moving and was becoming a little like one of the dancers. So this was the adventure. It was very nice. Merce called it nearly 90. I think he was a little superstitious. Of course, he didn't know if he would arrive to his 90th birthday. But he arrived, and this was 90 minutes, 90th birthday. and he was really celebrated in the BAM in New York. It was fantastic, a very, very strong love for this incredible artist. And soon afterwards, he died, something like 6 months afterwards. So it was really the last piece, and it was incredible that by chance I had the possibility to be near such an artist and such a fantastic person. So this is the structure inhabited, so that everybody can see how solid it is and how difficult it is to make something so solid in the middle of a theater. So I think now we have too many things. I think it's impossible to explain you so many things. There are thousands. This was a fantastic exhibition in the Tempietto of Bramante in Rome. We could do a little thing by putting some cushions of the same, reproducing the same texture of the floor. So instead of being a kind of a very erratic, impossible building, it became for sometimes a kind of a hippie place where everybody could sit on the floor and have conversation inside. It was a very nice possibility, and the expo itself was playing with the antiquities of Rome in a kind of playful way. This is also something which happened this year. It was in June. With Harvard, we opened a space, an exhibition space and a workshop space, which is named after Enric Miralles, my late husband. So it's the Enric Miralles Foundation. This is the moment of the opening. And now this foundation exists with Rafael Moneo, Mose Mostafavi, and Boigas, and Elias Torres. So a kind of a good blessing for the opening. And now this space exists. It's in Barcelona. It's underneath our office. So now we have this office working on top, which is kind of experimental, as you have seen, and also places where workshop working on special thematics will happen, and a fantastic space where this can be exhibited. So this is something very important to me, and also something which is taking now a lot of time away and a lot of effort. But I hope that this can be also something fantastic to have it near to the production, production and experimentation being very near. So this is the moment of the opening in Barcelona. This is our office, and the workshop take part together with this, which is the storage of our models. So working together with the storage, I think it's a good idea, something very nice. And this is also, I think it's the last one. It's very long, very long. We did with L'Oréal a kind of place where it's academy. It's an academy in Barcelona where the hairdressers go and learn about the products by L'Oréal. I thought it was nice, and it was very nice to investigate about the fact of the hair. No? Hair is beauty, synonymous of beauty. Also, hair has this kind of shape which, well, were adopted by the modernistic architects, and we are in the core of the modernistic city in Barcelona. So we did this play with the theme of hair, making this space becoming like a geometry of hair. And we also investigate very much about the history of L'Oréal, the history of, here is more the history of L'Oréal in a kind of a mural, because they really had this image about the hair, about the beauty of curves, of the femininity of curves, and what this means in relation to beauty. So we investigate this very much in many different ways, because this is a big company. They were not sure, we don't know, we doubt. So at the very end, this kind of big mural was the one which was missing, and we were nearly ready not to have a mural. These are the many pieces which are inside the place. No, we've created some fantastic bamboo rattan lamps, and some ceramic floorings, and so on and so on. But I was very keen about making this big mural with the story of L'Oréal and the story of the hair. And at the very end, they didn't want it. They had this usual excuse saying, oh, there's no budget anymore. I said, okay, then if there is no budget, everybody in the studio will come and take a pencil, and everybody will draw the big mural on top of the wall. So this was what we did, and we had everybody. We are very many in the studio. We are something like 40 people, and everybody at midday came here. We had this already put in place, so that we just had to go little by little in making by the different hands a pencil go, so that this drawing would really like being a drawing of hair, and also the pencil is very fine as hair. So this is really a kind of a metaphor, and very simple, done by the hands of everybody. And at the end, this was really a kind of party, a kind of an excuse of making everybody doing something different. Here you see also the client is on the stair, so he is also enjoying very much, not the doubt anymore, but just enjoying doing the thing. I don't have the photograph of the result, but it's over there, the little lines. And if you want, we can watch a video. It's a small video about this moment, and then we can finish with that. If it works, we can try. So we can put the volume, for example, maximum. Nearly finished, it was not finished. This video also is very homemade, because this was the no budget part of the building. Everybody arriving. She's very happy. She's the one directing the work. The artisan. You see, very complicated. I don't know how it finished. We can go to the last part, because I don't know if we see the finished part. Oh no, we see the roof. Yes. Some at least. Okay, it's finished. Yes, I'm here for questions.
Let's open it up for questions.
So a lot of your work seems counter. I mean, so in the United States, we have a lot of work that's based on what you can buy off the shelf, and everything is very square and rational. And a lot of your work has a sense of wonder and whimsy, and this idea of, you mentioned at the very end of your competitions, you have to like land it. You know, how do you turn it into something real? And I guess, and I imagine you also have to collaborate a fair amount with your engineers. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the meeting of these two worlds.
I think you're right, no? Of course, there are worlds of different point of views. But now you made me think that the fact that we have to collaborate with engineers, we have to collaborate with people, we have to collaborate with the client, so we have deadlines. This makes your thinking, your flying in many different directions, become real obligatory. So in a way, I think it is really fantastic to have this mixing of the academy or of a world of experimentation and the reality. I love it very much. I think it's really fantastic because it makes you adapt to necessities and to what is demanded by the situation. Also, these lectures, I'm never ready. So whenever I know it's the lecture is at 7, I have to finish.
So the thing that I think is kind of the most notable about what you showed is this balance between the handmade and the digital.
Yeah.
And as we like continually kind of drift away from the handmade, is there any key point that you can give or clever ways that you like to use the hand in your work?
This of handmade, you know, it's complicated because our world of production of drawings has been changing so much in these last years. When we were starting with Enric in the 90s, we were resisting about designing anything with computer. You know, we were obligatory handmade and fantastically drawn with a fantastic compass, beautiful tools, beautiful instruments. And then this, of course, became absurd. It was not possible to communicate with people by avoiding technology. So we inserted technology and we tried to make it as much as possible similar to our way of working. But this also is difficult. It is the program is not responding exactly to your way of doing. And so I think in these last years we are adapting all the time. And models were our way of maintaining very strongly the handmade, because it's really fantastic. No, maybe you cannot very much in drawings, not anymore, but in models you can. But now we will have the challenge of machines, fantastic machines arriving and making you doubt if this is useful or not. But anyway, we love it. We love it very much, and we can change, but we think it's important to maintain a part of handmade, because it's a part of thinking also.
Can I maybe ask a kind of extension to that question? What are the opportunities that you've discovered by merging your sort of tradition with digital design technologies, things that have moved forward? You know, I assume in some cases some of the spatial constructions that you're developing, for example.
I don't know, this is not very easy to say, but for example, the Shanghai pavilion was a fantastic way. I was thinking that, for example, the handmade was putting together China and the Western world. But also technology is absolutely putting together, because we were producing a very complex geometry in the structure. And then we were sending the drawings to the Chinese builder, and the Chinese builder was using nearly exactly our drawings in order to produce directly with the machines. So it is really very, very fantastic, this possibility now.
I really like your collages and how the process you could see in the final products. And I was curious, like in the collages, do you do this in a collaboration or on your own? And do you see it more of carving space, or if it's more of a surface translation?
What did you say? The closest?
Well, the collages.
Ah, the collage.
Oh no, I do very little. I only do the mother. In a way, I like very much to have talented people in the office, and some of them are really fantastic in some things, some others in others. So it's a way. It's important to choose the right people in order to do, for example, collages or other type of experiments. And this last collage, I think, were done mainly by one girl who was very, very talented and was able to bring together a group of collaborators with her with these collages. They are of the same year, so it's very easy that this is more or less the same hands. But we have different type of collage, a little different, because they correspond to a different moment. So there are, in a way, it's also adapting to the people you have in the office, and like this work, this big drawing in L'Oréal. At the end, everything looks the same, but there are the hands of everybody. Someone was very, very strong, someone was very, very light, and it's very different personalities expressing in the same technique. Thank you.